on research. Uh-oh. The PhD, of course, is very focused on research and generating new knowledge. And so the MLA sits in between and I think benefits from both of those. And we see the MLA as a degree that's really focused on training not just landscape architects, but training leaders in landscape architecture. And we want to think about our MLA students as the future generation of leaders and firm owners and firm managers. Okay, apparently I can't advance my slides. There we go. So I want to focus on where we are, because of course in landscape architecture, we care about the landscape. And we really focus on connecting where we are to global problems and global issues. But we want to focus on getting out and being in Oregon and using the landscape as our laboratory. So this is an image from one of our studios down in Coos Bay in the kind of southwest of the state, dealing with a lot of the issues that we deal with here in this part of the country, which includes climate change, sea level rise, tsunamis, deindustrialization. It's a former shipping port, which now has quite a bit of, with the decline of logging and timber, there's been a huge shift in the economy of Coos Bay. Also issues of coastal dredging and what do you do with that, as well as a proposed pipeline, natural gas pipeline. So just this whole confluence of issues coming together in this one town. I can't see my own notes. Let's move this thing out of the way. In Oregon, we really value our access to the land and the landscape. And so that's been actually, I think, one of the challenges for us in the last couple of weeks is how do we rethink a curriculum that's really engaged with the place where we are. This is a place where people love to hike, kayak, rock climb, get out and be in nature and really engage with the environment as this beautiful, restorative, kind of amazing place. But also there's a tension because it's also a place where we deal a lot with extraction and nature as a resource. And so the tension between those two things is something that animates how we think about the world. And that access to nature is very much part of who we are in Oregon. It's part of the kind of political willpower. In 1911, the governor at the time declared the beaches public access in perpetuity. So every beach in Oregon is public. Nobody has the right to purchase that land and restrict access. And again, that's over 100 years ago, 110 years ago. And we've always been a leader in sustainability. Going back to our early planning legislature, we were the first in the nation to have a bottle bill for returnable beverages. Containers. We have comprehensive land use, and you can see in this image what the effect of that is. When you have urban growth boundaries around cities, you get very dense, compact development right up against very open landscapes. So that kind of urban growth boundary really impacts the way that our landscapes are shaped here. We also did the Willamette Greenway Act, which was if you're familiar with the landscape architect Lawrence Halprin, he did a master plan of the Willamette Valley and proposed riparian buffer zones along the entire length of the Willamette River, preserving both the capacity of the river to move and flood, but also preserving public access to the river. So we've always been kind of ahead of the curve in thinking about how cultures and their landscapes relate. These are our challenges, and this was from a faculty strategic planning meeting in the fall. We do one of those every fall. And we were thinking about what are the things we want to focus on in our curriculum and what are the wicked problems around the world that we think we can engage in our landscapes and through our research in our studios. So you see issues about economy, habitat, race, infrastructure, homelessness, food security, issues around water, air quality, forest fires, all kinds of things like that. And they have particular ways that they get expressed in the Pacific Northwest, but they're all things that impact globally. Some of the major ones are the issues of coastal cities, the combination of the Cascadia subduction zone, and what are the likely impacts of an earthquake, of a tsunami, as well as some of the things I mentioned in that Coos Bay slide, issues around changing industries, issues around sea level rise, issues around climate change, issues around access to the coast. So we are definitely engaging with our coastal cities and the problems there. Climate change is one that we think about a lot. Many of our faculty members are active researchers and have been for a long time around climate change and what are the various issues we're facing here. A lot of that, again, ties into this notion of the productive landscape and shifting ecosystems as both animal and plant species migrate northwards. What are going to be the impacts both on our cultural landscapes, but also and significantly on our productive landscapes like our vineyards, our farms, our orchards. And I think like everywhere in the nation, we're seeing an increase in spatial inequality and homelessness. And I'll talk about this a bit later, but many of our faculty are deeply engaged with the local community around issues of equitable use of public spaces in our cities. So those are some of the things we're thinking about, complicated challenges without a doubt, and how they impact the landscape and how we can then design places that are resilient, just, equitable, healthy, beautiful. Our primary approach is that we use the landscape as our classroom and we use the landscape as a lab. One of our faculty members, we call it the Hell Fan Dictate, get out. So get out of studio, get out of the building, get out into the landscape, get out of the country. Again, it's made it quite challenging at this point in time when we're not allowed to get out. We're restructuring our summer program. It's going to be about 4 weeks, mid-August to mid-September. And the intention there is to organize those 4 weeks around a field trip each week, doing 2 transects, an east-west transect from the coast to the high desert, and a north-south transect up the Willamette Valley from Eugene to Portland and the Columbia River Gorge, and thinking about what is it to cut across those various ecoregions and just basically introducing folks to our part of the world. I'm going to put a little asterisk after that because, of course, with the global pandemic, things around the summer are still a bit in flux. So we will keep people posted, but we're actively planning as if this program is going to go ahead. And so the intention is that there'll be 2 or 3 day field trips each week. And those will be opportunities. We'll start the week with media exercises. And then on the field trips, we can test both the theory and the skills that we've learned. And then each Thursday and Friday, there'll be cumulative design projects that build on the field trips. This sort of re-echoes that, the idea that we have a quite diverse series of ecoregions in Oregon. And so our studios really like to take advantage of this, everything from the coast to the Cascades, to the high desert, to the agricultural Willamette Valley. It's a really diverse place to study, and we want to make sure that everybody's getting out into the places that we're studying and designing for. Closer to home, we have the urban farm. This is both a place and a course, and you can see some of the agricultural beds there from the class, the urban farm class. Harper Keeler, who directs this, takes it as an opportunity to talk also about soil ecology, local ecology, food security, civic agriculture. There are a whole bunch of issues. Students think they're going to come and learn how to grow tomatoes, but they actually come and learn a whole lot more about the connection between food, culture, economy, ecosystem health. And there's a short video on our website, on the Grad Day website, where you can see a little bit more of the urban farm. Many of our faculty are engaged in research around the world. This is Lima, Peru, 2 of our MLA students going out and helping with Corey Russell, Professor Corey Russell's research projects there. And so we always try to connect our research to our students and bring them along on those projects. One of those connections is the Overlook Field School, which is in Northeast Pennsylvania. Again, there's a video about this on the website, so feel free. These are all meant to be sort of short videos where you can get a little more information. But for the last 10 years, we've been taking students to an Olmsted firm designed property. We are working with Nelson Bird Woltz as they are revitalizing the property. And We bring in an artist in residence each year, and students work closely on a theme each year around the idea of the productive landscape. And it's kind of like a 4-week artists retreat. And we've been doing, I think, some pretty exciting and interesting work there. And then we're very interested in the idea of research through design. And I want to highlight 2 projects that faculty members are working on: Landscape for Humanity, which is Ye-Kang Ko, Jacques Abelman, and Corey Russell. And this is looking at the food, energy, water nexus. And a lot of their work has been with Opportunity Village, which is a outreach for homeless people here in Eugene, and thinking about informal settlements and how the kind of prototype work that they're doing here in Eugene around the issue of homelessness can then be leveraged globally around informal settlements. Again, Corey's work is in both, he has work in South Africa, work in Haiti, and work in Peru that he's doing container-based sanitation research. Ye-Kang is doing work in Southeast Asia around issues of renewable energy and conflicts between energy and habitat preservation. And then we also host the APRU Sustainable Cities and Landscapes Hub. APRU is the Association of Pacific Rim Universities. Ye-Kang Ko is the program manager for this. And they have among other things, I'll just give a kind of brief overview. They have an annual conference where they bring together scholars and practitioners from around the Pacific Rim to talk about issues of sustainability as cities and landscapes relate. They also have started a field school, and which accompanies the conference. We have scholarships that students can apply to go to that field school. I think this year it's in Auckland. Last year it was in Sydney. Previous years, I'm making this up now, I think it was in Hong Kong. And the initial one was in Portland. And so it's moving from host university to host university. And several of our students have been able to attend those field schools, and it's been pretty exciting and interesting. And then I think this is the final point that I wanted to make about how we operate as a department. We are really connected to the profession. We have a great relationship with Oregon ASLA. On the left, you see an image of our Shadow Mentor Day, where we cancel classes for the day and students go to San Francisco, Portland, Salem, Seattle, a couple other places, and spend the day shadowing our alums in firms around the kind of across the West Coast. And then the Overlook Field School is prepared for through a seminar in the spring. And for that, we typically have a speaker series that comes in talking around different issues. And you can see some of the folks we brought in last year for the Resilience Through Design series. And our student ASLA is incredibly active, and with both Oregon ASLA and department support, we typically send at least 2 members of the executive committee, but oftentimes the full executive committee to the national convention. You see on the left, I think that was Philadelphia. I'm not sure where we were, but the bulk of those people are students. And in particular for our master's students who are thinking about capstone research projects, it's really great to go and see the most innovative work happening around the country and around the world being presented by professional landscape architects. Students always come back with just tons of ideas about how they're going to change their own capstone projects. And so it's a really nice opportunity for students. One of those, I think, is Philadelphia, and one of those is Los Angeles. We've also gone to San Diego, and we'll be taking students to, hopefully, to Miami this fall. Briefly about the curriculum, and again, feel free to ask any of our faculty about any of these issues. It's studio-centered. We move through a sequence of 3 studio types. The first is foundations, where we look at systems design, landform design, and material design. The second year, we have a series of scalar studios, starting at a planning scale, moving to site design, and then moving into materials. The Oregon sequence is one track that you can opt in or out of. And at that, we study one particular site across the year, and students can take all 3 of those if they really want to dig deeply into a project, or they can just drop in or out for one or 2 of them. And then the third year is focused on research. We have a fall research-based studio, and then students do independent research capstone projects. You can see the 5 main content areas, pretty typical. And then, as I said, independent research is a big focus of our MLA. My presentation is freezing. It's doing a really weird fade. Sorry about that. And these are just some of our students who have, oh, go back. Some of our students last year that work in Peru on co-designing green sanitation infrastructure won an ASLA Award of Excellence. One of our master's projects by student Tori Talbot won an ASLA Honor Award for her project Co-Creation with Animals. And then Casey Howard, one of our BLA students, was the National Olmsted Scholar, not finalist, she was the National Olmsted Scholar for the Landscape Architecture Foundation. So the work that the students is doing is getting recognized nationally, which is quite gratifying. And it does not want to advance. And these are just some of the places where our students wind up. I would say about half and half our alums work in professional design firms or in governmental agencies, whether that's city planning agencies, state planning agencies, or places like the National Forest Service or the National Park Service. Those are the 2 largest areas where our alums are working. And it's freezing up again. Oh, this cute fade, sorry. One of our alum, I just wanted to profile 2 alums. One, Susan Dolan, who is a graduate from the 90s, and she's the manager of the National Park Service Cultural Landscapes Program. She was just here in the fall. No, actually, she was just here in winter leading a workshop on cultural landscapes, which was really fun to stomp around some of our cultural landscapes in town with her and talk about landscape preservation. And then Rachel Spencer, sorry, that is on auto advance, one of our students, more recent alum who's working in Philadelphia with David Rubin at Land Collective. And then I just wanted to close with a couple of Instagram names. Up at the top, there are some of our official Instagrams, ASLA U Oregon, that's our student ASLA group. The Overlook Field School and the Urban Farm all have their own Instagrams, as well as UO Arc Environment. And then some of our faculty there, Jacques Abelman, Liska Chan, Mark Eischeid, Michael Geffel, and myself. So if you want to see some of the places we go and the things we do, feel free to follow any of those and see what we're up to. That's what I have there. Jessica, do you want to start the research one, or do you want me to do that?
So I have Corey on here who said he'd be able to play it.
Okay, great. So we'll switch over to a faculty research presentation, where you'll at least get to hear the voices of our faculty members, if not actually see them.
Can you hear that yet? Oops. My apologies.
Hello, and welcome to the University of Oregon's Department of Landscape Architecture Faculty Research Profiles. I'm Roxy Thorin, Associate Professor and Department Head, and before I speak about my own work, I want to give a brief introduction to research at the University of Oregon. Our MLA program is nationally ranked by Design Intelligence, with noted strengths in sustainable and ecological design, research-based design, and climate change adaptive and resilient landscapes. This year, our award-winning faculty has secured over $1.5 million in grant funding from funders including the National Park Service, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the United Nations to study topics that include climate change resilience, homelessness, and sanitation infrastructures. This faculty research benefits the student experience as it impacts coursework and as students assist with faculty research projects. Building on their work with faculty, several of our students recently received national awards from the American Society of Landscape Architecture for their innovative projects. And with the launch this year of the School of Architecture and Environment's Spatial Justice Initiative, the school is highlighting our decades-long commitment to the study and design of environments that support all communities, plants, animals, and people. Each of our faculty members will give a brief overview of their teaching and research, and I'll start us off. As department head, I typically teach 2 courses every year, including research methods and another core course alternating between site analysis and landscape theory. My research centers on the design of productive landscapes. I recently published Farmscape, co-authored with Phoebe Liquar, which explores the integration of agriculture and landscape architecture. And I'm currently working on a similar book on forestry within the discipline. I'm also the director of the Fuller Center for Productive Landscapes. In addition to sponsoring faculty research, the center has 2 main teaching goals, one around the design of productive landscapes, and one around the role of making and art-based practices as a research method. We've run an award-winning summer field school for the last 9 years, where students have explored themes in productivity through the creative practice of site installations. And I'm delighted that this year we will be upgrading our research lab to continue these explorations throughout the year on campus, employing student researchers and supporting studios and independent student research projects.
My name is Jacques Abelman, and I was trained as a landscape architect in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. I teach design studios, advanced digital media courses, and seminars ranging from food systems to critical creative practice. My aim as a designer and researcher is to envision the future city through the potential of landscape. My research and built work seek to weave together spatial design, social justice, and food systems into the fabric of public space and infrastructure. My installations seek to bring ecological cycles in food systems to life through aesthetic, tactile, and educational interventions. I call this work infrastructural ecology, and it combines the social, spatial, and ecological, emphasizing where social justice intersects with landscape.
Hi, I'm Erica Derkoop-Gallis. I'm a senior instructor here. I'm also a registered landscape architect. I've been teaching for over 10 years and I've been practicing for over 15. I have a teaching certificate and I got my degree at the University of Oregon. I'm very excited about the ways that landscape architects can help with climate change, and particularly when that comes to planting design and healthy soils. And this is part of the focus of my practice. I started a firm last summer called Artemisia Landscape Design, and I've been working in the realm of residential design with a couple of local small firms through the years as well. I teach fall plants, winter plants, Tech 1, which is grading and drainage, and Tech 2, which is materials and details.
My name is Mark Eishine, and I'm an assistant professor of landscape architecture at the University of Oregon. My background is in geology, art, and landscape architecture. I teach the history of landscape architecture sequence, design studios, and a variety of other classes throughout the curriculum. Much of my current research focuses on the Miller Garden, which is one of the most famous and highly regarded modernist landscapes of the 20th century. Designed by Dan Kiley in the 1950s, it's located in Columbus, Indiana. I'm working on 2 projects right now. One looks at professional photography of the honey locust alley and how it may have informed the knowledge and reception of the honey locust alley among the landscape architecture community. I'm also working with one of our PhD students, Irina Volinets, to construct the early design history of the garden.
Hello, everyone. Sorry to meet you under these circumstances. My name is Michael Geffel, and I'm a visiting professor in the Department of Landscape Architecture. I'm the program manager of the Overlook Field School and also a registered landscape architect. Before joining the U of O, I practiced professionally in New England, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Northwest, as well as in the horticulture and restoration trades before that. My design research is broadly focused on experimental landscapes and is guided by one central question: how can landscape architecture engage landscape processes more directly? My interests are legion, and I try and synthesize my experience into design studios, technical workshops, and theory seminars to provide a broad perspective on the field of landscape architecture. If you'd like to chat more, my grad day office hours are 12 to 1 and 5 to 6 today, And if that doesn't work for you, I'm holding those hours for the next 2 Fridays as well. Feel free to sign up at calendly.com/mgeffel. Thanks, hope to see you soon.
Hi, I'm Bart. I spent much of my childhood running the woods, crawling through meadows, and wading in streams. And those experiences launched me on a lifetime of exploring how and why people are part of nature. That exploration led to a growing awareness that we depend on our planet's ecosystems for our well-being and survival. And that led to the driving question of my research and teaching. How can we integrate people and land uses with native ecosystems and evolutionary processes? That questioning grew into an understanding that the qualities we seek when we talk about resilient, sustainable, or regenerative designs are the core qualities of healthy ecosystems, and to a conviction that we can incorporate those qualities into our designs and plans in any landscape context and at any spatial scale. In particular, we need to accommodate and mimic the ways that ecosystems dynamically self-organize to build complexity and stability as they adapt to their environments. This is what allows them to endure and prosper even as they change. It's the foundation for their abundance. I believe it's one of the keys to sustaining our human heritage. That's what I study and explore with my students in my teaching and research, and I'd be glad to talk about that with any of you. Bye for now.
Hi, I'm Harper Keeler, and I direct the Urban Farm program for our department. I also teach food studies. The work I do is pretty much centered around, not surprisingly, food. We look at productive landscapes and pollinator-friendly landscapes, urban habitats, local food dynamics, food system resiliency, food equity, those kind of things, and pretty much all things food. Please reach out to me if you want to learn more about what I'm working on and what we do at the Urban Farm, and I'd be delighted to chat. And take a second, we put up a video, sort of an intro video of the Urban Farm, real quick, that's on the Grad Day website, and you'll be able to find that. And I hope to show you the farm in person someday. So thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yegang Ko. I'm an assistant professor here and the director of the undergraduate studies and the program director of the APRU Sustainable Cities and Landscapes Hub, which is an international research network that UO leads under the auspice of the Association of Pacific Rim Universities. And with my colleagues, I'm also with the Landscape for Humanity lab that we developed here in our department. And we are developing together to provide a landscape system that addresses the basic needs like food, energy, water for transitional housing communities for the homeless people. And here I teach planning studio, landscape planning analysis, and design for climate action. And my research tried to answer a few questions like, how can urban landscapes contribute to reducing energy consumption of our cities? And given the rapid expansion of renewable energy infrastructure, how can landscape planning help resolving the conflicts between renewable energy structures and existing land use? And as land becomes scarce resources, how can landscape design increase multiple co-benefits and land use efficiency? Looking forward to meeting you.
Hello everyone, my name is Jun Lee, a career instructor in landscape architecture as well. I studied forestry and environmental science at Korea University, and I did my PhD in ecosystem science at the University of California, Berkeley. My research focuses on measuring and assessing landscape performance using GIS and remote sensing and modeling carbon and water cycles in natural and built environments. I'm teaching online courses, environmental data visualization, 3D mapping with LiDAR, tools for landscape performance assessment, and sensing the environment. I like new ideas and working on cutting-edge technology that can solve real-world problems. And please let me know if you have any other questions.
Hi, I'm Robert Reby. I've been a landscape architect for more than 40 years, working for the federal government, a private design firm, and consulting with many governments. The classes and studios I teach emphasize the intersection of planning and design. My bigger research projects have included the implementation of the Northwest Forest Plan from San Francisco to the Canadian border to understand public perceptions of timber harvest designs and larger landscape plans. I did a similar study for Tasmania, assisting Switzerland with planning procedures and audiovisual landscape simulation methods to locate and design wind farms, a study of landowner attitudes and behaviors regarding wildfire fuels reduction, assisting the Portland region with growth management, including their Vision 2040 plan, the design of a whole new city, helping the region's transit agency plan new rail lines and compact land uses, and completing the regional trail system. I contributed substantially to creating a new unit of the National Park System in New Mexico.
Hi folks, my name is Corey Russell. I'm an assistant professor in landscape architecture department in the environmental studies program here at the University of Oregon. I regularly teach courses in both units, including the following: Design for a Sustainable World, which is focused on how to use landscape architecture to address climate change; Sustainable Design Projects and Processes, which is focused on using human-centered design to help accelerate students' efforts to create and submit funding proposals for their design projects; and Certifying Sustainability, focused on teaching the site certification process. Broadly speaking, my research focuses on water, sanitation, and public health infrastructure for economic and social development. I do a lot of work outside the US, including locations like Haiti, Mozambique, and Colombia. I'm particularly interested in informal settlements, green space creation, climate change, and I serve as the chair of the Container-Based Sanitation Alliance. I'm also part of the Landscape for Humanity, or L4H initiative here at the U of O, which uses landscape as the fundamental framework for creating spatial changes that support social and environmental justice. We do this through design, research, and real-world projects. If you are interested in a more in-depth look at this research, please check out my personal website. All right, and then this last faculty member, Chris Enright, unfortunately could not record her voice, so I will stand in for her on that. Chris is a vital part of our program as well. She's a lecturer, did her undergrad, her master's, and her PhD here at the University of Oregon in landscape department, and she does a lot of work looking at GIS, spatial and futures analysis, and so she does a lot of large-scale landscape work that is really essential. And she also helps out a lot with advising MLA and PhD graduate students. And that's all of the faculty members.
Great. So if no one has any questions, I'm going to divide you all up into your breakout rooms. Again, for those of you who weren't here earlier, you were randomly assigned by me checking boxes. So if you feel like you also want to get to meet other students, feel free to leave the breakout room, and then you can just let me know what other room you want to go to. So the breakout rooms will be about 30 to 40 minutes. I'll send out a notification to all of you for a 5-minute warning of when I'll close the breakout rooms. So you should all be getting notifications to join a room.
Whew.
I'm going to stop the recording real quick.